Hello and welcome back. This will be chapter number 2 of Sofia. What happened to you? Sofia closes her book, laying it by her side distractedly. Census's chest deflates, mush pout making its way to his face. I won. He drops down on the grass beside her, curling up closer to her side without actually touching her. You won? When he doesn't answer, she pokes his side, peering at him curiously. What did you win? The fight, Census hugs, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Sofia lets it go since it's not aimed at her. She still waits him out, watching him fidget for a moment before surrendering to her curiosity. Vino, Census turns on his back, bearing his fangs to the sky. He called my mama a wolf, so I busted his nose in. Huh, Sofia blinks, watching the confidence drain out of Census the longer she waits to answer. She supposes she shouldn't encourage his violent tendencies. Then again, she's not quite the love and peace type herself. Break something next time. If nothing else, it might be a better deterrent. That gets her a smirk. Census cleans the blood from his knuckles and his lip with the hem of his shirt before hugging her midsection, using her lap as a pillow. What are you reading? I don't know, Sophia admits. My new caretakers took away some of my books. Now I have this romance monstrosity. She likes romance well enough, but this one is not only particularly cheesy, but it's also slightly worrying in its imposition of gender roles. Then again, Sophia sighs. I don't even know what I just read. She has forgotten already. Census hums, ignoring the book already. Here, he presses something soft into her palm. A feather? Sophia blinks. It's red, shiny, and very soft to the touch. It's beautiful, Census. He prints at that. Got it for you. They'll find it. They have been keeping a closer eye on her, after all. Before Census can revel at that, Sophia cuts fingers through his messy dark hair. Here. She braids the small string into a lock of his hair. Wear it for me. Census, Sophia growls, hugging the blanket closer to her chest. You scared me. I wanted to know where you were disappearing to. Census smirks at her, but he does break his throat just a little. More a pacifying gesture than an apology. What's this? He presses at the lump of blankets at her feet. I'm rebuilding my nest, she huffs, choosing to let things go. Census is stubborn when he wants to be. I wasn't happy with the last one any longer. Isn't your nest supposed to be in your room? Sophia huffs. Technically. But I hate that one and they keep ruining the ones I built, so... Census is also knowledgeable on the nosy tendencies of the Iron Force staff. I want to help. Damn, Alpha. Sophia rolls her eyes. Census has taken to simply announcing his intentions instead of asking. It's a thing he does more and more now. Sophia thinks it's stupid, but at the same time she doesn't mind all that much, not when he always bites off if she feels the need to put her foot down. She eyes her blankets thoughtfully before reaching for one of them, looking back at Census. Fine. She throws a blanket over his head, putting it against his scent glands. Hey! Census growls, snorting when she pokes his side to remind him, but he does give her shells and rock. What the fuck? His hands grab the blanket, pushing it away from his head. She rolls her eyes, pressing the blanket under his nose. What does it smell like? Me? What does that have to do with anything? Sophia hums, bringing the blanket up to her nose to check. I'm going to build my nest with this, and since it smells of you, then my nest should smell of you too. Census turns, eyeing the rest of the blankets thoughtfully. Good. Give me the next one. Alright. Sophia lowers her blanket to her side carefully, reaching back to her unscented pile. This one, I think. Shit. If Census had heard her, he'd be both shocked and amused beyond belief. If her caretakers had heard her, she would be in so much trouble. Then again, if her caretakers were here right now, swearing will be the least of her problems. She drags herself out of bed, staring at the mess left in her blankets. I'm too young for this. Far too young for this. She looks around the room, ignoring the uncomfortable feeling of her clothes sticking against her skin. Sofia is so thankful, so very thankful, that her caretakers are in a bit of an uproar about one of the young maid's unplanned pregnancy. It means that her leash has been unusually long. Sofia jumps, the sound of a maid knocking on her door jarring her out of her shock. I am awake. She hurries away from the door. I'll take a shower and get ready. Of course. Luckily, the maid didn't come inside the room. Sophia jumps into action, thankful for her habit of hiding extra blankets in the back of her closet. She changes the bed, hands sure and agile but shaking, and forces herself into the shower, clothes and all, right after opening every window she can get away with opening. Nobody can know. Not yet, she's not ready. Sophia should have known. She presses her face against the cold tile, letting the cold water wash over her. She should have realized the moment she started getting clingier around Sansus, the moment his usually laid-back attitude became protective. There were signs, many of them, and she missed them all. She has to hide this. Sophia can't stay forever in the shower, no matter how paranoid it makes her to leave it. Stepping out of it, Sophia dries herself quickly, feeling far too relieved when she notes the smell of her heat is far too faint to be noticeable. If this follows normal patterns, it should be regular in the beginning and heats usually come every 3 to 4 months. She's hoping for 6 months, a year, give her that long, to make peace with it, to understand, to try and find a way out. Sansus, she grimaces. Sansus is going to freak. Sophia hasn't actually explained to him what will happen to her, and Sansus isn't one to let one of his go so easily. And she's his, in his eyes. Not in Don Nono's, however, and the old man will have plans for her. Of that there's little doubt. Having her here is an investment to begin with. Sansus can't go against his father, Sophia is going to have to break it to him, explain in a way he'll understand. And yet, she doesn't want to. In a deep, dark part of herself, Sophia wants Sansus to protect her the way her instincts insist that he would. It would get both of them killed, and although Sophia isn't exactly happy about the idea of dying, the idea of Saxon's dying in a fruitless effort to protect her makes her heart size in her chest. She'll survive this bullshit situation like she has survived the isolation, the sheltering, the little white lies and assumptions. She'll get through this somehow, and Sansus better behaves himself. She can't have him doing something stupid. Sophia doesn't meet any of Sansus's brothers until she is 13 years old to Sansus's 14 years. Even then, it's mostly a greeting and nothing more. Sansus is possessive and selfish. He appreciates that Sophia is in no particular rush to meet new people, that her caretakers keep her sheltered and hidden away. Their escapades are somehow under both their minders' radars and compromise only of the two of them, and the once a glimpse of silver hair. She's more surprised by Massimo's self-assuredness as he smiles down at her, waiting for an answer, than at Sansus's telling his call. Good day, she finally decides, looking up at the man and leaning into Sansus's side. A hand sneaks around her waist and Sophia hums, nosing the underside of Sansus's jaw. I'm Sophia. Whatever, Sansus growls when she extends her hand for the other guy to shake and she lifts the other one, palm up in front of Sansus's chest. Massimo watches on in amusement as Sansus drops 2 shells and a rock in it. A pleasure. He shakes the hand, letting it go under Sansus's suspicious glare. I'm glad to finally meet you. Are you? Sophia blinks. She was under the impression that only Sansus and she were aware of their friendship. Of course, Massimo catches on quickly, laughing merrily. He seems like a nice man, jovial, warm. Sophia likes him. Who do you think has been covering for you? It makes sense, though Sophia is a little embarrassed that she hadn't even noticed it before. She's not as young as she used to be, though she's still young, and she's learned to pay more attention to her surroundings, even when she's all but immersed in a wonderful book. Sophia knows by now the reason for her isolation, the motivation behind keeping an otherwise no-name little girl in a place as prestigious as the Iron Fort. It's impossible to ignore it, not with the shifts in her lessons. And despite all that close watch, Sophia has been meeting with a young, unmated alpha. One who isn't even a pup anymore. Questions about property can be raised. Her so-called honor could be put into question. The Mongola would be furious. As good as they've gotten at it lately. They were younger and sloppier once. There's no way, there's absolutely nobody who knows. It just was their luck that Sansus's older brother took it upon himself to cover their tracks. Thank you. She knows he can tell her smile is shaky. Massimo's actions were kind, are kind, and yet they're all the crueler for it. They're going to give her away, sooner or later. Sooner seems more like it, even. Sofia has no way out of it, none that she can grasp, anyway. For all that she had a life before this one, in this one, she's never once left her smile section in the Iron Fort. Outside of Sansos, she has no friends, no resources, no way to escape Mongola, and they will hunt her down if she runs. As it is, Sansos will be pissed when it happens. It's to her shame that she's pleased about it. If she's truthful, Sofia sort of wants it over with. Give her away already, so that the anxiety of not knowing can be done and dealt with. She's heard enough to know that the chances of whichever alpha being kind to her are slim, just as she knows that a not so small part of her will beg for Sansus to save her. Not that he can do it. He's Don Bongola's youngest son, but even he can go against his father's decisions. Massimo's smile is darker when he nods back at her. You're welcome.